So part two of scalable backup. So we needed to talk to Lisa a little bit. Tom, you want to take it?
Yeah. So she's in Shanghai, I believe, and there's something about Google China that's not working well for Hangouts right now.
Yeah, Google doesn't work.
So, so we've been corresponding. So she may not be able to join. If she joins us right now, it'll be through remarkable ingenuity, but she's going to watch the IRC channel for the link. But we corresponded asynchronously by email. And Andrew has the emails. I sent her an email, which you'll see here, doing my best to render the outcome of yesterday's discussion. We had anticipated an interesting discussion about rolling upgrades, and it was interesting, but I think we're ready to move on from that right now. But what I summarized there, so just for the record, so anybody can correct it, it's basically plans to align with what McCall's proposing, and we'll make sure that the scalable backup fits in there, and the fact he has a patch there, and so on. But that's all been going well. That level of cooperation and so on. He's been very helpful to Lisa and me as we try to move this forward anyway. The other issue, of course, is the one about how do we handle RBD and sheepdog and the connection, the relation between that and the connector and the like. So I'm not even 100% confident that I've rendered Duncan's concern accurately, but this is my best job at it in the email. And what I've attempted to say is that basically what we need to do is work with Rick people and Duncan and John over here, my new colleague, to make sure that we have a way to handle SEP especially, but the non-vice tap attaches for some lack of a better term.
She wrote this recently?
She wrote this, no, this code on the right, this pre-existing code is what we have. So I pulled up, Andrew set this up. This code, this run backup routine here is the new code and the new patch that we've had up already. I had just forgotten because I was thinking about what Duncan said is 100% true about the pop code I put up, and it may still be true about this or not. But she has attempted already, as you will read in her reply, to differentiate between the case where she gets the response she gets back from Rick.
Matthew and I are.
Yeah, you can explain it better than I.
This logic looks like it doesn't work. It looks like it should be at least really close.
Looks close. So I guess when we don't even have to settle this right now. My plan of action on this is sort of a blueprint writer and guidance in the other 12-hour soft time zone helping communicate on this. Would be as Duncan remarked to me yesterday, he's a lot closer to Lisa's time zone than I am, and he's very willing to work with her directly. But I'm thinking that this is something where Duncan, John, Hemna, and I as student and facilitator or whatever can probably figure out how to make this work.
Keep looking at the email. She's figured it out.
Pardon?
Keep looking at the email. Email we got last night. She figured it out.
It seems like she's anticipated the discussion. In fact, that we're just partly dealing with a 12-hour time difference, so we're 13-hour time difference. I'll just also record that I was just chatting with John, and I realized that I wasn't listening to one thing he was saying. In fact, as he pointed out to me, it's probably the main thing he was saying. But there is a reasonable discussion to be had about once you decouple backup and volume services, does it make sense to run more of them on the same node along the lines of multi-backend, the way we do today, right? When we multi-backend for volume, we're running multiple processes on the same node, as opposed to spreading them out horizontally. This is a reasonable discussion to be had. I had always been aligning with a use case that Duncan's the only guy really who's articulated the use case, but a use case for this. That was driving. He obviously had background in public cloud and so on. So I was thinking about that case. But back when I did the pop codes, we had a conversation about this, or some of us had, and we said, okay, right now, it's all in the host string. Right now we have it's just like multi-backend. If we choose to run multiple processes, the host string is now being used to control where the backup process. It's not the volume host string in this case, it's the host string. Where is the backup process being hosted? So there's nothing that says it can't be made longer with an additional part, so one could run multiples of them on the same backend. This is not something I'm for or against at this point. Again, I'm just trying to say let's do the decoupling and then have the conversations. Like, it will enable all kinds of interesting conversations and line choices that we can't make now.
I don't like what the sound of that. The only reason to run multiple instances of backup service on one node would be parallelism, right? They wouldn't actually have different configs.
As I said, I'm not for or against it. John was giving some reasons that we might want to do that yesterday.
Well, I don't know, is the reason just parallelism, or?
Well, I thought the discussion around that yesterday was because I thought the discussion around that yesterday was because the service itself is CPU bound, and if you have multiple cores.
Right, so that's
on a big box, then it's just parallelism.
Yeah,
so there's an argument for that.
From an admin experience point of view, having to configure multiple of them just to get parallelism is really silly. If you could just have a knob concern that says, give me 4, give me 8, give me 10.
I don't disagree with that, and whether they would be on the same machine or spread out.
Sure.
Yeah, so the only reason to have like multiple backends where you configure is to have like different backup services.
Right.
Maybe. Well, that's slightly different.
Backup to SAP, backup to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You would just want a knob where you could say, give me lots of them.
So the good side of this is it enables all these conversations that you can't have reasonably with them coupled. The bad side of this is it enables all these conversations that you can't have without them. No, I mean, I think it's good. I do at the same time. Just want to.
I would be really sad if we had to configure multiple backup services to get big files.
So what I want to say is, I guess my position is just that because you don't like the way it might go if we make the wrong choices, and it's not a reason not to have choices.
Well, and that
let's
was-
enable the choices.
That was the statement you made yesterday, is that this was the starting point, and then we would discuss further how many you deploy, whether it's automatic or.
I agree with you, Ben. I think that's totally reasonable. If you just say how many number you want for that type and instantiate that number. If you have a different type, that's a different block, and you also have a number for that too.
So are people okay with the direction of this? Sounds like something is.
Yep.
Okay, we can argue about it again at 4:30 in the passion after we've had a coffee. Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa Proxy.
Yeah.
So just quickly, I looked at the RBD connector in Brick, and it's not returning a type attribute in the dictionary for connect volume, which it should.
That could be better, yeah.
Yeah, that could be better. We need to be keying off of type so that way it's agnostic and something that wants to consume
Right,
it.
it's kind of indirect to just check the way she's doing it right
Yeah.
now. It's almost like
Calling is instance.
I don't like that. Yeah. No.
We discussed this issue, this identity connector withdrawn. Yesterday, I will fix it.
Okay. Yeah.
But the issue.
I was gonna put up a patch and clean some of that up too, but whatever.
We'll fix it. Easy.
Question.
I have a random question. Who maintains the sheepdog driver? There's one person. There's somebody that shows up.
Blinking on his name.
Yeah, she shows up very once in a while. Is there a company behind it?
Yeah.
No,
Well,
it's not.
no. It's an open source.
Does someone
Yeah,
maintain?
she is a company. She's an LLC.
If the driver's maintained, then.
Are there a bunch of bugs?
Yeah.
You see, I run.
It's actually Jenkins
Oh.
because it's an open source project. It got added there.
It keeps coming up in the context of access, so I wonder if anyone shed a tear in a way. Sounds like at least one person would.
Well,
Part of that is because it's one of the other things to discuss.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of nice.
But we need to have someone write a connector for it for brick.
Yes, that's probably.
I see, right.
So whoever the maintainer of the driver is should do that work.
It would be nice.
Yeah,
I know
it would
nothing
be a
about
shame
it, so.
If we find a good thing for the core, it's held up because of one driver.
Well, I think we'll sort out a lot of that with figuring the software setup and then making sure that the file system based on this as well.
Sounds like another opportunity for me to learn something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know people.
so it looks like they're going in the direction of
Probably something.
Speaking of such things, and there are IBM people here, do people use the TSN driver? Does anybody know? Somewhat?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just didn't know.
they use it in the lab.
It's okay. I didn't see a lot of, maybe it just works and there's no, I didn't see anything going on with it. Whereas Sun Backup has stuff going on with it. Right. Other stuff has stuff going on with it. It may just be TSN to the tourist interface and that's it.
I think that is the case, and I've heard that it has been used, and I know who to contact as a maintainer, but who's actively working on it right now, I would need to follow up on that. So that's actually a good question.
Yeah, I might ping you just to find out. The guy who's worked on the chunk stuff and he's just joined the company that cares about stuff. I'm interested in the question of how much overlap there is in these things. Is there any potential sharing of code and stuff like that?
Yeah, the guy who I would talk to will come online for a couple hours. I'll ping him when he's up.
Thanks.
Yep.
Zone. Cinder without Nova. You ready to talk about that?
Yeah. So there are kind of a few things. I'm not going to demo any code. I'm sorry. But it's actually really easy. There's just some things that we could do to make it a little easier, maybe. So what I've been working on is actually in a different language. It's not in Python. So I'm using some of the Go for Cloud binaries from Rackspace to do some things to define. Everything we need is actually in place. I've got a pull request that's going to go into Go for Cloud for this patch initialization. It turns out it's really simple to just, although it's somewhat wasteful, it's really simple to go ahead and deploy Cinder, Keystone, MySQL, and Rabbit.
So that's the minimum requirement of being
Right
able to
now.
use Cinder.
Yeah. And the one thing that I considered was if we could get to the point of removing the Keystone requirement, which may or may not be valuable. I don't know if it's worth it or not. The other thing is I started talking this with some folks, some customers, and some people actually using
MySQL
OpenStack.
and Rabbit.
And the use case for them is, hey, if we do use Cinder, if we're going to use it, we're going to use it because we already have it in OpenStack Cloud. And their motto would be to actually just provision a new tenant inside of that existing OpenStack Cloud and give people credentials to use it as the volume attach, detach, all that stuff, actually it was super simple. I mean, I think my Go code was 200 lines of code.
No, one is not simple or hard, complex this code. This code, we propose it, we maintain it, it's official cinder code. So, because a lot of people have own bar script, Python code, they do the same.
Yeah.
We just propose it like an official cinder code.
Yep. Yep. So, yeah, if we want to propose it as something inside of the project, I think that's great. And I think that, you know, Rick is apparently the place that has all of the tools to do it. So I guess you just suck that in and you just use it like you do everywhere else. That seems pretty easy. But, the main thing from my perspective was to start thinking outside of the Nova box, so to speak, and start thinking about, okay, how do we want to look a year from now? What do we want to be? Do we want to be an open stack block storage service, or do we want to be just a block storage service? I think the expanding out and being more general block storage service is a good idea. Especially with the advent of Copperhead and Rexray and all these other things that are going on, and apparently IBM's SBC and all this other stuff.
To if it is done, we need to manage devices to attach and lock install.
Yeah. Well,
Not lock, make it computer.
Yeah, correct. But so to be clear, though, I think that's just the first step. I think there are things that are lacking in Cinder to make it something that's an attractive package for that sort of thing. And I think the current architecture is not something that's going to lend itself well to be a viable option. The reason why is right now we're in this mode where, you know, we've noticed over the years, if you look at the code, we keep shoehorning in all these vendor unique behaviors and things like that. And with the architecture we have and the way we're doing that, we're making the code really brittle.
Yes. Right.
So it's kind of a bad deal. So I think we need to start looking at it more closely, thinking about where we want to go, how we want it to be, and actually look at our design a little bit and possibly change how we design. I think that the old API scheduler volume manager flow is kind of broken. I don't think that's the right way to go anymore. I think we actually need to start thinking about breaking out modules based on functionality, which I never thought I'd ever say.
Microservices.
Well, whether they're actually services or not, that's another question, but possibly. But yeah, I don't
API.
The volume manager itself seems to be riddled with a lot of strangeness and complexity with respect to some of the vendor-specific stuff, and I think that should be abstracted a little bit cleaner than it is now. We do a lot of things in there for checks that should be in the API. So it should be a clear delineation in my mind of where those things should be done, and it's mixed pretty badly.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. The other thing is, I know this is unpopular, but we kind of need to decide too. Do we want to go back to enforcing our, hey, this is the API, this is how it works, no matter what's behind it, we call it, this is what it works. Right?
Yes.
We got away from that. And I don't know if it matters or not. But if we don't, if we want to continue to go down the path of allowing some things to implement something are not, I think that's fine. But I do think it would be interesting if we came up with a better way to present that to a user and a better way to identify that.
Yep.
When you say everything was working
I mean, those are the examples that we pick on all the time. Right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, everybody's probably all these vendors are writing Docker drivers and Docker drivers, and I mean, it's the same. we started, I mean, I don't know if you implemented every feature in your POC or whatever, but it seems like we could start with the basic of what kind of those things needed, and I mean, this whole container thing isn't going to go away anytime soon, and having that module that you kind of plug in, I know Cinder drivers basically.
I don't think it really has much to do with that per se.
Well, actually, that part actually, surprisingly, that part's really easy. So
I did the same POC that you just did because we had a tool with an HP that was going to work.
Right.
So, and yeah, it's not that hard. You basically get the Perl commands that nobody uses and put them in that order.
Well, even better, you can just go ahead and turn on this center point.
Yeah.
Which actually is what you should do.
Yes.
We write that client for a reason and make it an importable library. You don't have to use it.
But it was, that's good.
But yeah, I think that it's worth taking a step back and looking at after like a lot of this object versioning and race condition stuff and all that. After some of that stuff settles down, I think it would be a really good time for us to kind of step back and take a look at our architecture. And just because the other projects are architected in a certain way, doesn't mean that's the right way or the best way. So I think we should consider it. It would be an interesting exercise for folks that were, if there's enough people interested. And I don't know if there is. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
So sometimes
We need to fix the fucking API in this.
Right, but we should
It needs
fix
to
the
be
API
a
without
full-
thinking about this whole
It
thing.
needs to be a full.
Yeah. And adding multi-attach without fixing the API and thinking about this is all part of the same process.
Right.
It is.
Exactly.
yes, we go this way. Actually, you just need to see what more about.
I agree. Yeah. I agree.
So-
I agree.
So how about this? It really looks like the agenda's light today. Why don't we, if we have time later, which I think we should, start talking about it, start writing stuff down, start figuring out who's interested in.
But the thing is there's a high cost associated with this, right?
Extremely high.
So, and what it means is we're probably going to have, and I think this would be fantastic. We have a Cinder release for N that doesn't implement a new feature. There's no new API.
This idea kind of ties into the big long mailing list thread of the stabilization cycle.
Yeah.
Re-architecting helps.
Plus, we've been kind of complaining about the API from Nova to Cinder. I know this is kind of tying Nova into this a little bit, but we know that the API could be better, and it would be nice to be able to attack the whole solution to a certain extent, including the API too.
The only problem is this isn't. I don't think you can take this as a chance to like change the API, because that's a whole different thing, right? That's an. If you want to API rev, then I say you dedicate a release cycle to doing an API rev to do it. Correct?
I'm just saying we should take it into consideration. It could be a different API that we plug on top of the new architecture or whatnot. We need to just think about it.
After the migration thing, we actually need to move all of them from the extension to the core in order to use the version, the micro version. So that's something we.
So that's something that I kind of go back and forth on, and I can't figure out what the right answer. I don't necessarily think that's the right answer. I know that's what people do.
Because if you don't do that, then you can't use the micro version at all.
You can't use it for the extension.
For the extension.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, so that's another thing about our design that may or may not be good or bad.
I think we just fix that fact.
Yeah.
The other question is, are all those things really extensions anymore?
I mean, no, they're not. I mean, we've had that discussion.
I think we talked about this in Tokyo, and there was Mike was saying that I thought there were plans to move all those things out of extensions and get rid of that OS dash.
We've been talking about this.
Yes.
So to back up a second, here's the thing: is you can't just take all those things and just move them. It's not that simple, right?
Actually, do that. Yes.
You can in code, absolutely, but you can't because you're gonna break every compatibility rule that we've ever created.
So you implement a compatibility layer after you move them that redirects everything, and that turns out to be a shockingly small amount of code.
And that's cool. That's totally what I was gonna say was, as much as I still don't like the whole microversion, but that is still probably the time when you do something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think you need some kind of delineation of a contrib or extras or whatever you want to call it that denotes that, hey, these are extra things that somebody, a vendor, can go and they can write a module that can be imported and used inside of Cinder without being in the tree.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
That shouldn't go away. That's what that should become.
Yeah.
Well, the PCL of changing that absolutely just quite a lot. So the PCL said that there is a view, a strong view in the community that absolutely should go away.
I don't understand which is your way.
The idea of conflict, the idea that of having vendor unique, each group will vendor unique code
In tree.
as an API and having those mechanisms in
Go away.
Yeah.
You can't stop people from, it's open source, you can't stop people from hacking on it after.
No, I'm pointing out the PCL suggesting those mechanisms should be in project. I don't agree with that stuff. It's a whole difficult thing. It's a whole open-based standard.
Does any everything should be working?
Yes, everything should do it. Nobody did that, and the people behind that have been getting a lot of attention over all that time.
So what do they think about experimental APIs then? Because that's kind of outside the boundaries as well, and seems to be breaking deathcore rules or whatnot. And if we can't do that, then we're kind of in trouble with trying new things and keeping that stuff in code.
I don't agree with completely with the idea of conflict. I think our conflict is a mess.
It sounds kind of like a mess to me.
Yeah. I mean, pointing out that is annoying that it's been made for all of it.
Yeah.
I think, so I'll look into that. I'll look into that a little bit and see what some of the discussions are, because I'm sure there's a specific problem that they've noticed, especially on the deathcore side. In fact, I know, for example, when they went to the IBM public cloud, it took a long time and a lot of work to get things to actually run. So compared to what they did in Rackspace and HP public cloud. And vice versa, when they first added HP public cloud. So it's just how it is.
Yeah.
And so I know that's the problem that they're trying to solve.
I'd like to respond to what you said earlier about not everyone can do everything. In the vanilla project, we've already accepted that different backends have different capabilities and we have to deal with that somehow. We have a mechanism which is to actually have some extra specs on share types for employee types. These are visible. If you get share type food, you'll be able to take snapshots. We have some actions that can't do snapshots.
That's an interesting.
That's a cool idea.
It's visible on the when you select this share type and you create a share, you're not going to be able to take snapshots. But you know that up front. And that's just how we deal with it. It's not the best, but we've accepted that not every backend is going to be able to do everything, and we don't want to chain ourselves to the lowest common denominator.
So what happens when you make an API call against a share that doesn't support a particular capability? You just get exceptions like you do in Cinder, or?
Forbidden, or I don't know exactly what
So,
okay.
you say that that's not.
I'm just kind of curious how you.
So I actually, so we talked about that at some point this week. I honestly believe that we should have a mechanism to actually check that call at the API layer.
Yeah.
And return it an invalid operation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that happens.
Yeah. So when a share gets created that can't support snapshots, we store that fact. So the API service will know for this share, reject anything related to snapshots.
Instead of reporting no host found, which is what.
Yeah, I mean, you
What happens
do
now?
an in-memory map of
The capabilities for the backends or the types.
And if ABCs wasn't a disaster, you could actually use something like that.
Yes.
That's what I wanted you to use for from day one.
It is, yes.
Day one, I said you can't. So.
We don't need the policy to teach them.
You want us to enable CG?
So it's interesting because that.
I know.
So this discussion is kind of circled around, right?
Yeah.
But this discussion goes back to what I was talking about with maybe taking a look at how we've architected some things and how some of the code is set up.
Yeah.
I think, having been here is always good because it's got things that they're doing in the middle to solve some of the same problems that we solved a different way and stuff like that. And then some of us have experience looking at Neutron, which in my opinion, and this is no offense to anybody, but it's the absolute perfect model to not follow.
Yeah.
Which is just different APIs for everything and do whatever you want.
Nightmare.
And that's one
Yeah.
extreme to the
I was going to ask Ben also, in Manila, you're thinking of at least kind of the possibility in mind of being able to run REST package.
Oh, yeah. We have the same desire to be able to run, independently. What you run with the same services that are shown. Yeah, we'd like to get rid of the Keystone dependency.
Who's just going to run with Keystone, so that's correct.
Well, I was wondering about that. Was one thing we brought up in Tokyo is taking out the context or changing the way we use context so that we don't have as much dependency there.
I think you're always going to need a database and a message bus.
You have to have those two.
There's
no way around it.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily need authentication. An authentication layer on top.
Yeah.
So my follow-up question was, which projects are there projects at all working on that?
Ironic, Lance, Neutron.
So they've done that.
Yep, they all solved it.
So if we were interested, I don't know.
No, we are. As Sean said, we talked about this in Tokyo. That absolutely
Leveraging that work.
Absolutely.
Let's take that. And then we used to
I don't know
have,
Lance and Ironic. It's just in the middle.
I mean, even
Just
for
like
functional
2 months.
Wasn't there a
The
NOAUth
last sort of
that used to work? NOAUth?
Yeah, it's no.
Yeah.
So basically, it just ignores whatever Tokyo values. It doesn't validate it. The same.
And you have admin privileges?
Yeah.
I presume. Yeah. Yeah, I thought we had that at one point in Cinder even. I was pretty sure we did.
Most people that
I think you have input parameters.
Most people that are going to use an OpenStack service are not going to deploy OpenStack to use it. They're going to be using OpenStack. Like the response I got from one guy was, why would I go through all the pain and suffering of deploying OpenStack if I don't actually need OpenStack? And I said, well,
Yeah.
Well, if somebody just wants the service, then they might not have to go through all.
And you're missing what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, how many people just want the service, at least in this form today? Probably not very many. Maybe.
I don't know. I don't have
Not today, but if we can evolve.
But if we can fix that, then people might want to just consume it
Which
directly.
Would be fantastic. It'd be awesome.
Which ultimately, one thing that Ironic would like to be able to do is go directly to basically have a user be able to associate a volume with an instance, but we don't have an instance ID.
Right.
And marry the two and then boot up and be happy. That'd be a nice, perfect thing in the universe. I'm not 100% sure we can do that now, but hopefully soon.
So, how do you going to do that without Wait.
We have to figure it out. Right now the plan is
Conceptually.
conceptually,
Do you want to have the volume before you go to the identifier view?
we take Nova out of the picture. We don't store an instance ID at that point. But what we're planning on doing is storing all the target and initiator information and basically synchronizing that back and forth.
So when I think you can get the object. Give the label.
Yeah.
We don't validate it. You give it a label that identifies that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The conundrum would be is if someone's also still using Nova because Ironic can be used completely independently of Nova in the same config.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how that matters. It's just a unique ID, that's all.
Pull you the idea.
So
Yeah.
what I do right now is I make a shot of the MAC address of the machine, and I just pass that in as things. Doesn't mean anything to me, but I mean I'm sure there's a better thing to do, but that's
Can you
what
pass first name instead of instance ID?
I-
This will work.
Oh, host name is not.
In my mind, the question really is
That's not guaranteed
if
to be
another
unique, though.
service goes and looks for something it's expecting, and then sees all these IDs that has no idea that exists.
you can flip that.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why. So
Oh,
initially
yeah.
I was using.
I
I
see.
was just using a null string, just putting null in there. And I decided that might be a bad idea, and I didn't think of what you just said, but that's a good point. So if you do a shot of a MAC address or something along that line, as long as you ID like, the good thing about that is everybody's expecting that and it shouldn't blow up, it should just work. So that might be an interesting way to go.
There's no point when you're going to give me everything actually validate yourself.
But
you can already use one super and two separate memories like that.
We also have the concept in the attachments table of attachment ID, and we could just reference that too.
So
It could be attached to anything.
That's what we need to reference. Then have a list of.
Yeah. Yeah, we can get that.
Okay.
So the good point that this brings up anyway is having, as Ivan said, rather than all of us running off and writing our own incarnation of this, having some standard set up in some client actually does all this for them. So it just works.
Well, if you have the attached, detached mechanisms, all we have to do is basically have a driver that locks that into a workflow and then have it merge appropriate information.
Yeah.
And we're done.
Yeah. So we can handle the things of what that information is, what it means, what needs to be there, stuff like that. You feed that, we return it.
In theory.
In theory and practice are the same thing.
Yes, that's right. Theoretically.
So, and when I get this, so I should have the other stuff that I'm working on, I should have that posted. That should be on GitHub in the next couple of weeks. Make sure you guys all have a see what's going on, and then do that work the next stage on the client side. And again, I'm gonna need that.
What, John, you wrote that in Go Cloud or something? Like,
so there's
just because whatever you're integrating with, that's the language, or is there?
So there's a library. There's a library out there called Go for Cloud. It's a Go SDK for OpenStack. So that's what I'm doing. Right now, it's kind of the best one out there. It's a Rackspace out there. But it's written in Python as well. If you want Python,
No, I'm just.
Just saying in Python, in the line stage.
Yeah.
It's all it is. It's really just a center client. It's about
60 lines.
And the next one we've got somebody who's in Java program. I'll raise your hand at once. Patrick.
Yeah.
You swerved over here to see.
Yeah. I joined this project to get away from Java.
So my point was just more that, we talked about this in Tokyo and stuff like that. It's actually not far away. There's people already doing this with our stuff. The cluster HQ guys are already doing this.
HP guys.
There's some folks from HP doing it. There's some folks from EMC that are doing it. So there's people already doing this. So there's no reason why we shouldn't. If people are interested, there's no reason why we shouldn't be involved.
I think everybody's interested.
There are also Kubernetes plugins for Cinder.
Yeah.
Cinder. I don't know if they work, but
I can't figure out how they work exactly yet. So a lot of that right now is doing pre-provisioning and then letting Kubernetes figure out how to do the iSCSI attachments. I don't know how the RBD stuff works on there yet, or if it works. I know it works in there's a native plugin to do RBD stuff. That's but yeah, so that's the next thing that I want to look at is
probably Mesos is the same thing.
Yeah,
they would want to.
Mesos and Swarm are actually really easy functionally, because once you get the native plugin, which I'm hoping I'm going to have more sooner, once you have that native plugin, it can just read it from the Docker file, or use Docker Compose, or whatever it is. Just once that native driver is in, pretty much just works. Pretty. Little hand waving. Theory. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting to look at it the other direction instead of the containers in OpenStack, and about using OpenStack as a foundation.
Thank you. I forget.
Any other special needs or attachments in case when we don't use Node?
Duncan said that Nova already handles CMIDs, doesn't know
I
about it.
don't know.
Okay,
But
then,
no, that has to continue that. You can see log when he wants to know.
okay, so
So
then,
I need to see that the node doesn't know that all the time.
so that doesn't really matter. We have to come up with a scheme for how to engage the API or how the user needs to engage and use, and track and associate. I think for our purposes, we need to actually track attachments. That way we can go back and forth and sync the information when we have state changes that we need to apply. Case through drivers, without it having to be optional, they'll allow a driver to update information. I could call that, but that's way down the road, I think.
You explain that a bit more because when people keep trying to call back to driver data.
So ironic, upon state changes, we'll probably have to go pull Cinder, in the case of Cinder specific integration, saying, oh, something's changed. I need to make sure, I need to update this file on disk that this machine might be pixie booting from. To actually, that tells it where to actually go to boot from.
So you just want to stop some information out of Cinder.
Yes, but we'll have to periodically do that on
Yes.
on
So
station.
you don't actually want to change anything in Cinder.
No.
Okay.
What we might have to have is the ability for a user to actually trigger that as an out-of-band action.
Yeah. But just to remind you what you've already told me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or refresh your information, even though you're not supposed to right now.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what HP is already doing this kind of thing?
We had a POC that we did about a year or so ago that we pulled Cinder into another product just to test it out to see if it was something viable for us.
Oh, yeah.
It went well.
Yeah.
Kurt did all the work for it.
Yeah, it went well. Some of the things that were lacking were like column forward because we basically plugged it into a different UI, another product. And,
I think this is around the Ice House timeframe.
yeah, things that
So it was a while ago.
like callbacks, so you'd send something off and, did it finish or.
It's a REST API. How many times do you have to go through this? That work.
I'm just saying, there's long running tasks because we had, so part of the stuff was we had, before we had Zone Manager, it was doing Zone, I mean, it was just a bunch of stuff and
You guys open source any of
the product,
No, it was just a POC. It was a one-time thing just to see.
and I mean, the things that are taught, the air handling and stuff that need to be better.
And we actually looked at fixing some of those things and we pushed
and
code
in
up,
fact,
actually.
I entered actually some bugs with
Yeah.
if you turn on notifications for Cinder, you get all the completion states in the Cinder and log and info. You get a bunch of Cinder completions already for all the tasks. If you turn on notifications,
Yeah.
it creates a couple new rabbit queues, and you can get those, but I mean you have to have a tool that basically holds
those.
in the queue. And it was just
Yeah.
a little before the time that Cinder was ready just to do all that.
I didn't know there were something.
Yeah,
We didn't either.
Bugs, and we got it fixed. Yeah.
Well, but we were just talking the other day about implementing.
Well, it's not.
Oh, they're still there.
So In the loggers,
Yeah.
you can set like a notification queue, and it will create these queues, but it's not the information.
I'm not sure that a lot of them even have enough info to really associate them back to all the IDs and stuff, right?
The request IDs are in there.
And the volume IDs, if you put them in there, but still nobody's using that. You know, really
Yeah,
sad.
and no, there's a guy, I believe at Rackspaces.
The guy right here that put it in Oslo, so all you gotta do is put the dictionary in your log statement.
Yeah. There was like a stack go or something, or
Stacking.
huh?
Stacking.
Yeah.
We use that now.
Yeah.
We're just packing that back into the we use it most of the time. Stacking.
Stacky.
Stack tap.
Stack tack is what we used. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just collects the notification.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it will collect them from all the projects, so it has a, you know, you can go, okay, this volume, oh, it belongs to Nova in this instance, try to use it.
Yep.
It will condense all that
See the
stuff.
whole history.
Yeah. You see the whole history. Yeah. The app that we
There,
used consumed that to find out when things were finished, so it could
That's there by default. And I think
manage the
it's,
workflow, I guess.
I could find the bug. It wasn't actually working, but because of the, I believe this is a year and a half ago, there was some,
Yeah.
yeah, there was some API, it ended up getting fixed.
Oh, this was Sandy's project. Okay.
Yeah, Sandy, yeah. So that, if you go through and just enable the notifications for Cinder, it will create the 3 queues. I think there's an error queue, an info queue, and one other one.
Yeah, that's just the notification. So I haven't been able to since why are we talking about
Oh, no, it's just, that was part of this POC and why at the time that wasn't working, so we put a bug in to fix, or we helped fix that. And,
The app we were embedding Cinder into needed to know when things completed instead of getting instead of polling the API constantly. It needed a callback, sort of.
Yeah, if you enable it, yeah. If you come settings and you point it to the notification, I think it supports multiple queues and all that. Like it's notification topic, or it's all documented on that. What saying here, it's all documented. It's got a YouTube video that you can watch. Yeah, I think HP has 10 different products, and they all provision storage in 8 different languages, and it's just like we have. Yeah, I mean, I know we've worked on this.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I worked on that project.
Yeah.
First
Yeah.
one on it?
Gary, yeah.
Right, you worked over there. You know what it is.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
So if we have this, I'm pretty guaranteed that we would pull it in.
Yeah. Yep.
Guaranteed. So I think we could get by on actually work on some of this.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, we have a big interest in this.
It's something that Jens discussed in the past as well. I haven't gone forward with it, but it's been discussed using it.
It's not uncommon. One company needs it and has ideas to use it, so it's gonna. Everyone else is gonna want it too for whatever reason, We all kind of build
Hopefully
the same
the reason
stuff.
is that customers want it and there's market demand.
Hopefully.
That's what stimulates somebody to want it.
Money? What?
Let me see if I can find. Do you have the 2 lines? Really, it's 2 lines in CinderCom, and then you've got to install it. You want to wrap it into microservice piece, and then you can see the queue and see it going in there. Yeah. No, I don't know if you had looked at that for the
Not in
notification driver and notification topic.
Yes. think when they went to Oslo, they took one less argument than what the prior notification thing. But it would through an old clear exception. Can't have that argument.
Yeah. Anything more to say on this?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
It kind of morphed into multiple topics.
Yeah. That never happens.
Take a break? 10,
Yeah, let's
15?
take a little break.
You kidding? We just started.
Bio break?
Coffee break.
5-minute break. A 5-minute cinder break.
5
5-minute break.
Let's try for a 5-minute break.
Are you serious? I mean, I can.
Got cinder time or Hawaiian time.